not able to log in right now, so I'm starting the seminar. On behalf of the Center for Social Work and Center for Human Rights and Duties, Punjab University, we welcome you all. We have with us Professor R.K. Singh, Dean University Instruction, Punjab University, our key speaker for today, and our key speaker for today, Dr. Mushtaq Ahmed Memom. I welcome you both. The present age is witnessing intersection of multiple crises being influenced, a crisis being listed to a global scale with unseen levels of inequality, climate destabilization, economic uncertainty, and mounting public health threats due to coronavirus. In a matter of months, the world has been transformed. Thousands of people have already died, and hundreds and thousands more have fallen ill. For millions of others who have not caught the disease, their entire way of life has changed by it. All all who have not all our crises that are slowly tipping the balance, questioning our business as usual economic model of the past decades, and requiring us to rethink our new next steps. Keeping this change scenario in mind, this lecture series on the theme sustainability issues and challenges during COVID-19 pandemic have started today on our World Environment Day. We have our Dean University Instructions, Professor R.K. Singh, to preside over the webinar. We welcome you, sir. A professor in computer science, he's a learned scholar and administrator par excellence. With teaching experience of more than 33 years, he has published extensively in various journals of international and national repute. We welcome you, sir, on this webinar. Now I request Professor Singh to kindly inaugurate the webinar.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Namita Gupta, Chairperson, Center for Human Rights and Duties. Dr. Monica Munjal Singh, Chairperson, Center for Social Work. Dr. Mushtaq Ahmed Memom, he is Regional Coordinator at UN Environment for Resource Efficiency in Asia and the Pacific Office, Bangkok. My faculty colleagues from Punjab University and other institutes, and my dear students, good morning. At the outset, I am thankful to the chairpersons of both the centers for inviting me to today's international webinar on sustainable lifestyle for nature. I really appreciate the efforts of the organizers to initiate a lecture series on the theme sustainability issues and challenges during COVID-19 pandemic, and today's webinar is the first in the series. There cannot be any better day to start this lecture series than on the World Environment Day today. My best wishes for the day. We all know that the theme of the World Environment Day 2020 is Time for Nature, with a focus on providing essential infrastructure that supports life on Earth and human development. It is also a well-known fact that the food we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the climate that makes our planet habitable, these all come from nature. Therefore, to take care of for ourselves, we must take care for the nature. It is collective duty of each of us to protect and conserve environment for coming generations. I am sure that the participants will learn a lot about protecting our Earth from the best minds in the fields. With this, I wish the webinar a great success. Stay home, stay healthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the tone right for the webinar. Moving further, it is my pleasure to introduce our key speaker for today, Dr. Mushtaq Ahmed Memom. Dr. Memom is a regional coordinator for Resource Efficiency United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, Asia Pacific Regional Office, Bangkok. He's supporting resource efficiency, sustainable consumption and production, green economy, green financing, sustainable tourism and production. and various areas for Asia and the Pacific. Dr. Memon is also a project manager for the EU-funded Switch Asia program to promote sustainable consumption and production and uptake of SDG 12 in Asia. He will be speaking on sustainable lifestyle for nature. Sir, I'm really thankful to you for accepting our invitation to deliver this lecture today on the World Environment Day. Over to you, sir, and welcome once again.
Good morning, and thank you very much. Thank you, Excellencies, and my respected professors and dear friends. So let me first try to share my screen. Let's see if it works. Okay, so today is a World Environment Day, and this year's theme is It's Time for Nature. And so we are going to talk about the sustainable lifestyles for nature. Though we can talk about various aspects, including like our own lifestyles, including the products which you can like launch as a in the future as a business person or as a technology person. So either it can help you through your careers, or either it can help you your current lifestyles being happier and healthier, or it can help you in a broader community and society. But today I chose, because we are talking to the very young friends about the behavior change through TV and film. As we all know that India is one of the most famous in terms of TV and film, so I thought it's better to see how we can help behavior changes for sustainable lifestyles to keep in line with nature through TV and film. But before getting there, I need to raise or remind us the strong linkages between the lifestyles and nature. So when we look on the consumption, so nature is all about what we extract from nature to consume, and we also dispose or contaminate or through emission, through waste, through wastewater and so on, so affect the nature. So either way, either through input or output, that is the relation. So that's where we talk about the resource efficiency, that how efficiently we can use the nature and how efficiently we can avoid contaminating the nature. And so that's all about the resource efficiency, and that's where our sustainable lifestyles play a very important role for that. And that's where, when we look on the material footprints, our footprints, like we consume plastics, we have steel, we live in houses, construction materials, food, and so on. So when we are talking about the material footprint, it are quite huge. And as we see that many countries who have more affordability, more economic growth, their material footprints become higher and higher. So not necessarily, like many countries are already at the peak and now they are investing to reduce that. So we will also see that situation. So when we are talking about the sustainable lifestyles, there are many ways to look into that. But the 5 things which I want to make you to see, because that's where every day you think about or you live with that: food, housing, mobility, how you commute, consumer goods, including iPhones and so on, leisure, even either going to the movies, going to the walk, going to the trips, and so forth. So these 5 things we keep in mind, that's how we are choosing our lifestyles vis-a-vis food, housing, mobility, consumer goods, and leisure, which we can really call it sustainable lifestyles. So when we are looking on the Asia Pacific, as I cover whole Asia Pacific region, here we have 4.2 billion people and now increasing, and we have a ever increasing urbanizing. So many people are moving to cities, and on the cities there are positives and negatives. on the cities, they are highly dense, so we can provide more effective services to the many people at once. But also, then the consumerism or materialism increases in the cities. So we have to look on that as well. And then we also see that how we are spending, like especially with now the credit cards, with the debts, that we have easy access to the debts, so we can borrow the money, we can enjoy the life, and we can pay back after we get the salary or stipend or a scholarship and so on. So this all affects the material footprints, our way of the money we have, or how we can spend our money, whether we can borrow also that, where we live, what access we have. Now online shopping is another challenge. So where we can, even during COVID, we see the lot of increasing in the packaging waste and a lot of, I would say, unnecessary consumerism through online and so on. So first we are looking on the food, as I mentioned, that many places, the diet, the food is very, very important issue. And we see that a lot of greenhouse gases are also related with the livestock and so forth. So food is becoming a very important challenge, and also the food waste. Again, the methane emissions from the rotten food or from the food waste and so on. So that food is a very, very important point of to start with. Then also the houses, because every house has their negative environmental impacts in terms of energy. And also houses can be very positive because, as I say, that in dense populations, the housing schemes, they can provide the centralized solutions for waste recycling, waste management, wastewater, and so on. So either way, when we look, we can talk about the housing then. Then also looking on the mobility, as we have seen the shift in ownership of the personal vehicles, two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and especially as I mentioned that access to the borrowing and so on, easy installments. Now even the fuel prices are reducing. So there's a lot of appetite, temptation for vehicles as well. But also there's a positive shift, because in the past when we see like a USA, other countries where people really wanted to drive like 2 hours commuting from work and so on, but they do not want to do it now. They want to use public transport because they want to play with their phones or tablets. So that is also a change coming in the lifestyles, that many people during commuting wants to still work on their phones and so on, and so they don't want to drive and on. So that's one point also to be considered. Then also the tourism. So unfortunately with COVID-19, the tourism gone down, but as we see that Asia Pacific, or even in other many countries, Europe or even the Caribbeans, tourism is the backbone of the economy. Even in India, like tourism is a huge, that supports a lot of livelihoods, especially to the SMEs, to the poor people and so on. So that's where the growth in tourism we saw before the COVID was enormous, but if it's not properly managed, then it has a lot of negative environmental impacts. So I think this is the right time again for us to think about how we are reopening up our tourism, and we should be prepared for the green tourism and so on. So when we are talking about us, that why really we want all this stuff, okay, many people think money is happiness. There are always a limit on the money and happiness. But there are also other like indicators like safety, affection, substance, participation, that even if we have money, if we are not socially participating, like in COVID now situations, it's a challenging part. So happiness is not only about owning some materials, cars, but it's all the combination of quite many indicators together. And that's where we can see that how we can have a good balance across all these indicators. And also we have our ideologies. We have our own like backgrounds. So we have to really logically think about plausibility of those backgrounds as well. And then we also have our targets, whether national targets like nationally determined contributions as India or any other countries are the signatories for the climate change and so on, or our national development plans. The central government wants to see the poverty reduction, they want to see health, they want to see education, they want to see the basic services and so on. So there are national targets, then there are the city targets, then there are our family targets also for happiness and so on. So we can see that how we can really make a good balance across the global, national, local, and our own individual or family targets. And then when we are talking about this 1.5-degree lifestyles, because as we all know, the climate change will bring a much bigger impacts than even the COVID has brought in. So that's where we are targeting that how we can reduce our increase in the temperatures by 1.5 degrees by reducing the greenhouse gases. And again, all these lifestyles, whether I mentioned food, mobility, energy, housing, everything contributes there. So we are looking on the carbon footprints that how we can reduce through the different indicators. And this graph has so many indicators, and those are our daily lives. It's not like something from space. It's how we live, how we move, how we eat, how we enjoy our leisure, and so on. So when we are looking on the policy actions, whether be banning the plastic bags or taxing the plastic bags, we are talking about the eco labels to ensure what we are consuming has a lesser negative impacts and so on, or longevity with the repairs and reuse and so forth. So there's a lot of policy actions which we are promoting, and as either we supporting the policymakers are part of a policy-making process, or we are the beneficiaries of policies and so on. So depending as any type of a stakeholder, policies affect us or we are part of the policy-making process. So we have to be fully aware how the policies are done, what are their impacts, and how they can really change us or change the countries. So this policies for sustainable lifestyles is a very, very important to look into that how our mobility, suppose university policy. Many universities, they ban the personal vehicles, they charge high parking, they provide the transportation, they provide the proper energy savings like LEDs and so on. They provide the water fountains, so there's no plastics from the consumption of water and so on. So depending even within the university, the policies are very, very important too. Like I remember a few years back, I was providing training to Asian Institute of Technology. I asked, do you have a waste management policy? And first they said, no. I said, dig out. And then they found out that in 1950s or 60s, when AIT was established, even that time waste management policy was established there, which was in the shelf, and then they digged out. So there are the policies at every level to look into that, how they affect our lifestyles at home, at universities, in the city, or in a country. So I'm going a bit faster here, coming to our points of a TV and drama, but in many countries, they have a country policies. So suppose in India, for example, the nationally determined contributions on climate change are the plastics. It's becoming a very, very important challenge. So how we really change ourselves or others. So that's where we are looking on the different ways of how the messaging, because TV and film is about the messaging. So how those messages can help us. So let me go through. So you remember when Prime Minister Shri Modi ji launched the plastic policy, that time we had this breakup with the plastics advertisement on the TV, which went very, very popular in many countries, including India. So the first starting point is that those advertisements, that how we can take advantage of different advertisements, like nowadays, washing hands is very important for COVID and so on. So despite of whether it's by Lifebuoy or any other, they just try to promote that we should wash our hands or sanitize our hands. So these are the messaging that really change our behaviors very much. And then also, we're looking on the different ways of messaging. Suppose when the zero sugar Coke was launched, I wanted to ensure that people understand that this is a real Coke. This is not something different so people can reject. So that really affects. So we have to make sure that if we are talking about, let's say, public transport, we want to give a message that this means we are commuting the same distance as if we do in our car, but we are saving our own costs, we are enjoying our own mobile phone while in a public transport, and we are in a good shape arriving at there. So these type of messaging are becoming very important. And sorry. So if we look on these electric vehicles, now increasing in India also very rapidly, that how these messaging are coming, that how the electric vehicles on one hand brings the economy, but also the lesser negative impacts on environment. What happens? Okay, so when we are looking on the some site of TV messaging, like even if you see the cooking like classes on the TV, you can really see that most of times they try to waste or literally not waste any even skins and so on. And even sometimes if it's still a waste, it has to be shown that how it can be properly collected, composted to bring back to the nature and so on. So when we are looking on the, let's say, on this messaging, you might have seen the movies, many movies will come there. Either they will be talking about the brutal truth, like a climate catastrophe, or they'll be talking about the beautiful possibility, like a climate optimism. So those messages really affect our lifestyles very much. And then we can see that there are quite a list of the movies we picked up, and it has the messaging, like ecosystem message here. And for example, mermaid, the development can harm the environment, downsizing, minimizing consumption for climate change mitigation. The day after tomorrow, climate change is non-linear, will be catastrophe, affects everyone. Storm, technology will not fix the climate change, for example. What happened to the Monday? Overpopulation leads to resource depletion. And also you can see a lot of movies brings the messages. So sometimes we are more lost in the movies, we really do not see the message or read in between the lines, but there's always a message there. So I want to end my presentation at this point to open for the discussions. My key point for the discussions are, if you think about that what are unsustainable behaviors that we still have vis-a-vis food, mobility, housing, leisure, and so on, and how these can be rapidly changed, behavior change, whether through movies, through peer pressure, through parents, through professors, and so on. So we can see what are the effective ways in Punjab University to improve the sustainable lifestyles. So at that note, I want to close my presentation and open for questions or next presentation. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Memom, for giving us such an elaborative and extensive presentation where you mentioned about the ways by which we can have a sustainable lifestyle, the various challenges in all dimensions and spheres of life. You also mentioned how sensitizing and dissemination of information related to sustainability is very important. And through various case studies, you and through pictorial representation, you sent the message across, which I'm sure would be very useful for all the people who are attending this seminar. As sustainability is an issue which we are facing today, and everybody needs to be aware about how to achieve it and what are the challenges one faces. So I'm opening the floor for questions. So whoever has any questions can write it in the chat box or can unmute yourself and ask the questions to the honorable speaker. So there is a question. The question is, sir, nowadays there is an issue of discarding gloves, masks, and various other infectious material in our environment. What could be done effectively to stop this mass destruction caused by us, detrimental to environment?
Okay, this is a very important and timely issue, and you might have seen already the many photographs of the many masks and gloves, even flooding the rivers like Gangas or a Mekong here or the beaches and so on. So it's not only affecting or creating more danger for infections, but also they are affecting the marine environment, biodiversity, and so on. But it goes back to the basic principle of waste management. That we talk about the waste management, the first thing is segregation at source. One is a reduction. Reduction is an uplifting action. It's okay? Yeah. So basically, waste reduction is very important. How we can get the mask, get the gloves, which are of a better quality, which have a little bit longevity and so on. But whatever we want to discard, we discard in a segregated manner. That means there should be a collection separately for the mask, for the gloves, or any medical related waste, especially with the COVID nowadays. So that can be collected properly, stored properly, disinfected properly, and destroyed or treated properly. So that is the combination of actions between the public services providers, whether it be the government or private sector, and also the waste generators like us. So we have to be also careful or mindful how we discard our waste, and then we should have a very strong relationship with the service providers, whether it be municipal government or a private sector, that they collect it properly, disinfect, and treat properly. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Any more questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Am I audible?
Yes, Namita, you're audible.
Sorry, Dr. Memom, there was some technical error at my end, so I joined late. But you talked about unsustainable behavior and you also talked about carbon footprint. But do you feel how do you suggest that we should bring that behavioral change among the students? Should we have some workshop? Should we create some awareness camps? How we can bring that change?
Okay. See, as I mentioned, that there should be, first of all, there should be a university as some policies. Now, as we have seen, that sometimes the students or even the staff or professors, they may not be happy with some stringent policies in the universities. So also the advocacy awareness raising is very, very important along with the policies with that. As I mentioned about the commuting to the university, for example, the food within the university, the food waste, or the plastic bottles, like, so if they provide the water fountains and they are ensured that water is safe and people can bring their own thermos or cups and then drink from there. Energy efficiency gadgets or the energy conservation by not using the energy appliances when they are not required to be used, for example. So university is much easier because university is a bigger lab, is a laboratory. where you have a controlled actors, like students, professors, the staff. They come from different backgrounds. Some are rich, some are poor, and so on. But within the university, they like align very well. They become friends. Like your friends can be rich, poor, can be from Punjab, can be from South, and so on. So you can see that when all these friends sit together, they really merge very well, and that's much easier. So in university is a very good laboratory, basically really to test all those sustainable lifestyles. But as I mentioned, one is a policy part, that university should come up with a policy, but other is awareness and also being ownership. So everyone feels that they own this and they enjoy it. So basically, it's not a strict thing, like it's rather a happier and healthier lifestyles. So that's where you need to awareness that these lifestyles makes us happier and healthier as well, in addition to support the nature and environment and reducing even the cost for the university or the country. Thank you.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. We are talking about sustainable lifestyle, but the biggest threat is fashion industry and advertising, which puts pressure on students to keep on going towards unsustainable lifestyle. Do you feel that government should ban some of the advertisements which put such pressure, which says if HD is not there, then TV is uncle ka TV dabba type? So don't you feel that this kind of commercialism is leading us to unsustainable lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, it is true, but see the way it is, like when we say banning, I don't think it's coming or it will happen in that way. Now take for example the cigarettes, smoking. In 1970s, when we were kids, I remember those advertisements like really highlight that smoking is a one big thing, like socially and this. And today we are at a place where it's like seen as a very bad habit. So how this transforms drinking, smoking, so even sugar, like nowadays in many countries, like sugary drinks and so on, fizzy drinks. So on the one hand, there's a lot of awareness to showcase the negative impacts, but also to bring the alternatives. How is a healthier diet, and enjoy the healthier diets. So why people used to use unhealthier diets with a high carbon like emissions? Because they feel that they are tastier, like burgers, for example, fast food. So then you brought the healthier diets like soups, vegetable soups, and so on, to really see how you sit. So it's more important to counter with a better product rather than banning. That's my suggestion.
Thank you.
For you, a documentary named Planet of Humans is a real eye-opener on exposing green energy initiative, as it shows multi-billion industry causing much more harm to environment than any benefit. What could be done to curb such false propaganda?
What was your last line? What would be the?
What could be done to curb such false propaganda?
Okay. See, as I show in one of my slides, there are different backgrounds we have. Sometimes we say, oh, I am the only one of the 7 or 8 billion people. Even if I change, what will happen? Not many people are changing. Sometimes, even with COVID, I have seen that many people, they have very conspiracy theories, like, and they find it many good lessons out of the propaganda. Same happened with the polio vaccines and so on. So it's not about really getting in that way. The point is that, unfortunately, in our part of the world, we do not rely on the experts. We rather rely more on the politicians, TV anchor persons, and so on. Like in Europe, when I was having my education, we see any issue comes, they bring the experts. If it's a science related, is a scientist. If it's economics, economics are there. So if it is a behavioral changes, then the psychiatrists or the behavior like experts are there. So my suggestion as a university, you have a different experts. You have a scientist, you have a economist, you have an environmentalist, and so on. So if you can come up with the circles, with the groups, who can have discussions around those documentaries or the perceptions, what they call the propaganda, and so on, to address logically with evidence, whether economics evidence, science evidence, and so on, it's that trend will help, because now we see so many people coming on the TV and so on who do not have adequate knowledge, information, experience, and we just go with their beautiful words or the way they celebrityism and so on. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Related to this question only, the same person, Mr. Avtar Singh Chima, has asked, they are also using all harmful material to show that they are going to produce. They're going to produce green energy.
Sorry, what was the first line I couldn't read? To show that they are going to produce green energy? What?
So this is in continuation to the previous question only, and has been asked by the same person. He's saying, related to the question above, they are using all harmful materials to show that they are going to produce green energy. Which, with the last line in the previous question was, what could be done to curb such false propaganda? So this is in continuation to the same question.
Okay. So, for example, now we are talking about the solar energy, let's say. Now, when we talk about the solar energy, for example, as one slide I skipped, but you might have seen sustainable public procurement. Now, when we talk about the sustainable public procurement, so let's say Chandigarh, they want to have their energy needs of a certain amount of gigawatts and so on. So now they want to advertise that we want to have a green energy to support our energy needs. Now, what is a green energy? Okay, fossil fuels already gone. That's not a green energy, we know. But if we are talking about solar versus wind or versus others, so we go with the life cycle assessment for solar. How the solar panels are produced, where from those silica, lithium are mined. As we know, suppose in Mongolia, these rare earths, which are required for the batteries and electronics, they are near to the radioactive materials. And sometimes in that mining, they are affecting the Yellow River and creating cancer and so on. So we see the solar energy as a green energy, but if the basis of those solar cells, batteries are not produced properly, vis-a-vis the environmental impacts, vis-a-vis the child labor, vis-a-vis any other like human rights and so on, it cannot be called the green energy. And same, what happens to dispose of the solar panels? Because we know in now our houses, we use a lot of the solar panels, but then we just throw. When they are not working, we just dump in the dump sites. So they create a lot of negative environmental impacts and even hazardous materials are there and so on. So we need to complete the full loop from cradle to grave and so on. So that's where the green energy, when we talk, we really need to analyze, is it really green or not? Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So the next question is from Dr. Rani Mehta. She's chairperson sociology. She's asked that with the consumerist culture spreading to rural areas as well, how can we maintain sustainability in village life?
Okay, so in the village life, again, you can see the different models. Unfortunately, Asia, including whole Asia, I would say, is becoming urban. from Japan to the even Vietnam to the Thailand to the Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, Iran, so on. So it's becoming very urban. But if we look in the Europe, it's not really that pace of urbanization. So the important point is at the national level that how we ensure that rural life is also attractive in terms of economy, in jobs, in terms of the leisure, entertainment, in terms of the facilities, and so on. So, first of all, it really goes up to the macro level policies. Before we talk about the individual or household, like this type of consumerism and so on, to ensure that rural life is attractive in terms of why people should then move to the urban and also the decentralized of the services or the offices and so on. So like in Malaysia, suppose they have a new capital city, Putrajaya. So that moved many people out of Kuala Lumpur to the Putrajaya. So again, when you are creating a new, I would say, reviving village life, you have a more opportunity to be more sustainable. For example, ecotourism. Now, many villages in Philippines, they are thriving on ecotourism. So even the people from cities, they go and spend their 2 weeks, 3 weeks there, and they enjoy the life, which is a clean water, clean air, clean wind. So I think we have to look on the macro policies, but then it comes also that how we create our own lifestyles, whether we are in cities or villages. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, sir. I request everybody to please mute their mics as it's causing a lot of disturbance. So there's another question. As Dr. Namita talked about commercialization of sustainable lifestyle, we have experienced that the alternative, natural, organic, or environment-friendly products are much more expensive as compared to the ones we are using, which makes it out of reach for the common man. So what could be done to curb this consumerism?
Okay. So there's some truth, some not truth. For example, anything that is new is expensive because there's not yet economies of scale there. So that is once there is a lot of mass consumerism, that becomes cheaper. Very easy example of LED bulbs in India, LED lights. They were very expensive, but then the government, they procured millions of LED bulbs with a price of 20 rupee or something, I forgot. Initially it was 100 or something. So there was 80% reduction because of the bulk buying or the economies of scale. So if there's a scale, so same with the organic. Because what is different? Like inorganic is also not cheap to produce. They need a chemical fertilizer, which are again expensive. It's not like something free. So when we want to promote organic foods, if it's a mass scale, then there's a mass like a collection of all the biodegradable waste, composting, using it in organic farms and so on, then it becomes cheaper. Same with the transportation, retailing, and so forth. So one is really to see on the economies of scale. Number two, as we all know, that brand game, like Louis Vuitton and all those things, they maintain their prices at the level that is accessible only to the rich people. But then it doesn't mean that other people cannot use the bag. Yeah, they may not able to use Louis Vuitton bag, but they can still have another brand of bag. So with the same utility and more or less same fabric could be so on. So same goes with the food, same goes with the tablets, iPhones or phones and so on, that you can see that you can choose on the similar type of goods which are cheaper, which are not in a brand name, which are only meant for that. So we try to avoid that debate of pricey things, Rather, we look in that first, if it's expensive because there are not much production, the cost of production is high, how we can reduce the cost of production. But if it's under certain brands who always maintain the price, then we just leave those brands. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So the next question is, solar panels are going to become the next problem as they are not environmentally degradable. There will be huge amounts of solar panels lying in future as average solar panel life is just about 25 years. What measures could be taken to limit or to produce solar panels that are degradable?
Okay. As we see that solar energy is already there in many countries. And there are huge solar parks, like in USA, in other countries, where there's a lot of sunny days and so on. So that means solar panel is not a problem. The problem is that how we handle it, as I mentioned about the mask and same gloves or protection equipment, that whenever we have anything like a solar energy, we need to look into the life cycle, that how these are produced, how these will be used for a longer life, and how these will be collected back and then recycled. It's not about degradation, because I don't think the solar panels will be ever degradable. Like even the degradable plastics is still a major challenge because they take time and is a much bigger problem. But I would say that it's a recycling. Like so, you recover the materials from the solar panel and again use in the new solar panels and so on. So this whole technology should be there. That's why, again, it's for the government level intervention, like LED bulbs I mentioned, that if they want to have promote the solar energy, they want to ensure that in India, for example, they have full cycle. So how the panels are produced, maybe even produced overseas, doesn't matter, but they have to have eco-labeling and they ensure that is produced. And under extended producer responsibility or under the user responsibility, what we call the polluter pay principle, there should be a system where they are properly recycled back. So this is very, very important. So because now as we see that we just buy something, even phones, we buy and just throw out, if batteries we throw out, because there's no any monitoring on that. So either we improve our own habits or there's a strict enforcement, either way. So in many countries, like Singapore is a strict enforcement, you can't throw anything. But Japan is a strict peer pressure, that you can throw, but people won't like it and you will feel the pressure. So it depends how you really go, but you must have the full system in place. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. There's another question. Why are we giving importance to society and culture in developing countries during the sustainability assessment and weighing?
Because as we see that in developing countries, the growth is not linear, it's a non-linear. It's sometimes in different pockets, sometimes different within the cities, sometimes different sectors, like 1 year agriculture is not good. So you can see that agriculture related people are suffering. Other year agriculture booms and those people become rich. So there's no linearity. That means it affects a lot of a decision making on consumerism, how we spend our money, our waste. So that's where the behaviors are very, very important. That if we have stable behaviors, like in many countries, as I say, Japan, where I lived 20 years, that even if they become rich, they will not change. They will still use the same way the chopsticks, they throw the same way and so on. So that's why this in developing countries is more important to work on the behaviors. So we have mature way of living, whether One day we become rich, other day we may lose something because of a different issues and so on.
Thank you so much, sir. There's another question. It is part of a society to adopt unsustainable behaviors such as spending more money than required, spending more money than required to show off others. Is this becoming a part of a personality trait, or is it necessary to have such a lifestyle in the new kind of economy? Kindly give some suggestions as to how to modify our behavior.
Again, this comes, as I say, that from the way our behaviors are not mature. So we feel that show off is a big thing. It provides us a satisfaction, for example. Like in a feudal societies, that everybody looks to the feudal lord like a top guy. And top guy means in what either he has a big car, he has a big like a position or so on. But in the societies like in the UK, even prime minister cycles to the work, it doesn't matter if he's coming in Mercedes or if he's coming on bicycles, it will not change in other people the way look at him. They look at him, the policies he's adopting for UK, for example. So that's where the whole challenge is, and that's why, as I mentioned, that universities are a good laboratory, that where you mix up, you do not show off. Like suppose you are a group of 8-9 good friends, and some can be rich, some can be poor. Even the rich person, you won't see that it will be showing off within the friends. Yeah, it may be showing off to the other groups, that's a different, but within, so that's how you create this culture of harmony, that where show off doesn't mean anything except your own intellect, your policies, and so on. So that's where we really need to work very hard. We have to admit that this is a reality at the time being, but we have to work hard to improve our way that we look to the show off. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. There are no more questions. Anyone has any more questions, or we session? Sir, there is one question which has just come up. Do you think COVID made a positive impact on teaching us a behavior that is so eco-friendly?
It again, see, really depends. Especially when I look on India or my country, Pakistan, I still don't see that, because we see many people still like do not think COVID as really dangerous, and they have not changed their behavior yet. So, like government is trying, media is trying, a lot of messaging is going on, but still many people, they are not doing the physical distancing, they are not wearing the mask or properly like washing hands or sterilization and so on. So in other countries, yes, like Vietnam, like no casualty. Thailand is very well like controlled. So many countries, yes, like in Thailand, I see even they open the mouth, they properly go, they like, have their app on the phones, what time they enter, way they behave in mall, the way they eat in the restaurants, they have a physical distancing, and so on. So I think in other countries, yes, but unfortunately in our countries, still it has a long way to really change our behavior because of the pandemic like COVID. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Another question has come up. Another important unsustainable behavior we are indulging. Just a second, please. Another important unsustainable behavior we are indulged right now is degradation of soil by filling earth with plastic and other waste material. And this is very harmful to the environment. Many initiatives have been taken to educate people, but to no avail. Kindly suggest what could be done more effectively to stop this, or at least put a little weight on it.
Okay. So plastics, I think it was very high on the agenda. Even Prime Minister Shri Modi ji was really a champion behind that. So, but unfortunately with COVID, the situation went a little difficult for that, because on the one hand there was a lot of online shopping, food and so on, or the packaging waste came up too much. And number two, also there's some of the challenges that with the hygiene. So even the Starbucks, they start using the disposable cups instead of using the reusable cups and so on in some countries. So this is a pocket where we are in a situation, but this is a pocket where it provides us a lot of rethinking time to really see how we are going to address the plastics in future. As we already saw, back up with the single-use plastics, that means we can have the beautiful shopping bags, which can be reused, and rather it becomes a show-off that we respect to the nature. So we can use the positive show-off that we bring our own plastic bags, we bring our own cups or the water bottles, and so on. So the most important way, again, I would suggest you to really analyze that what are the major types of plastics which are creating a challenge and which we can easily address immediately. As I mentioned in some universities in Thailand where I went, I first asked them a question. I say, how many water bottles you buy every day? Some say 3, some say 4. I say, why don't you take the water from the water fountain here? Because then some say, oh, I can't, I forget my thermos. I say, okay, even if you forget, you can buy one plastic bottle and you start refilling it for 3-4 times, and you can dispose of properly at the end of the day. So at least you can reduce 70% of the waste. So in that way, if you again take Punjab University as a laboratory to see what type of plastics in packaging, in those food stream, or in any other is there, and how can you reduce that with immediately, which are much easier, which have no any problems with the hygiene and so on, for example. So I think in that way you can start doing this practice, and once we are out of COVID situation, then it will be much easier to address. But as we have seen that Mekong River here in Southeast Asia, or the Gangas there, where we have a big UNEP projects on the plastics, we are trying to see what are the sources of that. And many times these sources are not only household or our individual, these are also the industries, the factories, where the packaging is huge, or where the plastic as the raw material and so on. So we have to look also in a broader scheme of things, that when we see the plastics, we can easily see where are the hot spots and how to address that. And many plastics are recyclable, like these plastic bottles, for example. So, but the only challenge is that it has to be source segregated. So I would again emphasize that even if we have to use plastics, we have to source segregated so they do not get dirty and they can easily be recycled at least. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Over to Dr. Namita.
Thank you, Professor Memom, for such an interesting deliberation on sustainable lifestyle and taking so many questions very patiently. You raised many valid questions. How do we get happy? How to reduce our carbon footprint? How our policies are important for sustainable lifestyle? What are sustainable behavior, and how these can lead to behavioral changes? And you rightly said that universities are the good laboratory, and we have to start from universities. We have to start with segregated waste, and we have to create our own code of behavior. Nobody can give do's and don'ts to us. We have to create our own, because everybody has their own limitations. If I can't walk, if somebody can walk, then they can avoid using the vehicle. And COVID-19 has some positive impacts in India as far as climate change is concerned. We can see birds are back in our gardens. We can see more butterflies. Positive change is there. In Chandigarh right now, weather is very good. Otherwise, in June it is very hot. So weather is changing, but I think we all have to learn. It is World Environment Day, and it is high time that we introspect our own behavior. For last 2 3 days, we all are disturbed by what happened in Kerala to that female elephant. It shows how insensitive we are towards the environment and towards living creatures. We have become so selfish and so self-centered that whatever comes in our way of our ego or our food chain, we are ready to kill them. So on this specific day, I think we should learn how to live with nature. My thanks will be incomplete. Don't thank our Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajkumar, who keeps us pushing to organize such webinars. Thanks to Professor R.K. Singla, Dean of University Instructions, who is always kind enough to join us. My thanks are due to my colleague, Dr. Monica. Today I realized that how important collaborating work is because the internet in university all of a sudden Wi-Fi had some problem and Dr. Monica came to my rescue to start the session on time. So thanks to her. We have our colleagues and senior professors from throughout India. We have Professor Vijay Kumar Vagbare from Maharashtra. We have our colleagues from university, various chairpersons, Professor Shivanji Paul, Professor Dr. Sheena Pal, Dr. Rani Mehta, Dr. Kavita Taneja, Dr. Manoj Kumar Tiotia from CRID, Dr. Manish Sharma. We have research scholars from various departments in the university. We have students joined us today. I'm grateful to all of you. And this was the first lecture in the series. And every fortnight we are planning to have a lecture on sustainability issues and challenges in India. I again thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Mushtaq. I have heard you earlier also, and it was a pleasure listening to you again. You are always very crisp, short, and you give enough time to that students can raise questions. You answered them very patiently. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Namita. Thank you, Dr. Menon, for such an insightful and informative talk.